everyone. Welcome. It's day 4 at Artex Lagos 2020, and what a glorious day it is. It's been fantastic. We've had lots of exciting programs, and again today we're back with one of them, 40 Minutes with Galerie MAM and Nikkei Art Gallery. 40 Minutes with is a recreation of the insightful conversations that we usually have at our Artex Lagos booths with the galleries. And this is our 4th session, and it's moderated by a dear friend of ours, a repeat guest moderator, Toyin Odulate. Toyin is a seasoned consumer goods and FMCG senior management professional with 18 plus years of multinational corporate experience. She's currently the founder and CEO of Olori Beauty Enterprise Limited, an African multi-brand cosmetics manufacturing company based out of Lagos, Nigeria. She's also an avid art collector for many years. She's a major supporter of the African art space and community and passionate about art being integrated into our everyday lives. Toyin believes that art should be accessible to all and not just a distinct few. Welcome, Toyin. How are you doing this morning?
I'm very well, thank you. Thank you, Artex, for having me again.
Thank you.
All right, so welcome everyone. Again, my name is Toyin Odulate. I'm a friend of the house of ArtX, and today is our final installment of the 40 Minutes with Conversation series. And today we have 2 amazing galleries joining us. We have Galerie MAM, based out of Douala, Cameroon, and we have Nikkei Art Gallery, famously based out of Lagos, Nigeria. I'm just going to go into quick introductions and then we'll dive right into the questions. I'm going to start with Galerie MAM. Galerie MAM opened its 300-meter square space in the heart of the administrative district of Douala, Cameroon in 1995. In addition to the numerous artist residences and international events in which the gallery takes part, the gallery has presented a rotating catalog of works for sale by emerging and established artists online since 2019. With nearly 25 years experience in the art market and a strong professional reputation, Galerie MAM continues to offer exciting programs to collectors and art lovers, and in addition to providing art advisory and logistics services. I'd like to welcome Simon Njami, who's the independent curator representing Galerie MAM today, but he's joining us from Paris. Welcome, Simon.
Welcome, thank you.
And now I'm going to introduce Nikkei Art Gallery. Nikkei Art Gallery was founded over 30 years ago and is the largest privately owned gallery in West Africa, filling over 4 floors with more than 10,000 artworks and have featured over 2,000 exhibiting artists in its flagship in Lekki neighborhood of Lagos. And it's a popular destination for tourists and locals alike. Its other locations across Nigeria are in Abuja, Osogbo, and Ogidi. All artworks exhibited in Nikkei Art Gallery are made by African artists, depicting the continent's rich traditions and creativity across the breadth of its people. And it is founded by Chief Nikkei Okundaye, an established and celebrated artist, philanthropist, and avid promoter of African art. And Mama Nikkei needs no introduction, but she's the director and curator, head curator of Nikkei Art Gallery, and she joins us today. Welcome, Mama Nikkei. You'd have to. Welcome, Mama Nikkei.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Ma. How are you today?
Fine. We are happy to have Artex.
Fantastic, fantastic. This year we're going virtual because for obvious reasons. So we're having to do the best we can under these circumstances with our computers and all the sound issues. So we're just going to power through today, okay?
All right.
All right, fantastic. So I'm going to start with you, Simon. Could you please give us a bit of an overview of the art scene in Douala and Cameroon in general, and some of the background to which Galerie MAM came about?
I guess like in many cities or many countries in Africa, there's always a competition between 2 major cities. In Cameroon, it's Douala versus Yaoundé. But of course, Douala have been winning the battle for years. That's where you have spaces like Douala, that's where you have MAM, and that's where most of the artists come to work. Probably the comparison we could make with Nigeria would be Lagos and Abuja. I mean, Yaoundé is the capital, but because it is the capital, I think that art is not breathing as well and as strongly as it does in Douala. Douala is a kind of a melting pot. It's the most energetic city in Cameroon, and things are coming from everywhere. There's some artist collective. There's new artists every time, and people even come from Yaoundé to be in Douala, as if you're not in Douala, you're not really. You haven't made it. So Douala is a kind of New York, if I could quote Frank Sinatra. If I make it there, I can make it everywhere. So it's really vibrant, and this is where the historical institutions are based. And if we talk about MAM Gallery, for instance, it's not only a gallery, it's also a foundation. It's an institution that has been supporting young creation and Cameroonian creation, and it goes beyond, as we will see later, beyond Cameroon. It's not a nationalistic space. It shows artists from all over Africa. It shows even artists from beyond Africa, just to say that art has no border, no limits, and no frontiers.
It's fantastic. So I noticed that today, 2 out of your 3 artists are actually Cameroonian. So I wanted you to just quickly talk to us about your choice in presenting these 3 artists at the Artex virtual exhibition this year, and your thinking behind their works and why you wanted to feature them this year.
I think the advantage in abolishing the borders is that we Africans are able to decide who's African or not, which is, I guess, a sign of power and of freedom. If we look at history, people have been naming us, and if you look at a space like Lagos Fair, if you look at all those beautiful initiatives that are taking place in Africa, you notice that Africa for the past year has decided to take his own destiny in its own hand. If you look at the 3 artists selected, it's a different type of Cameroonians. If we start with Mathusier, who is the least Cameroonian, he's Cameroonian as well. He's been working, he's a photographer, he's been working across Africa. And in the show at the fair, for instance, there's an image of Fela, the great Fela, who is probably lecturing a musician as we know Fela. And then we move to Claudie Poinsard, who is another type of Cameroonian because she's half-half. And being half-half, she's part French and part Cameroonian. And I guess her soul is Cameroonian. And then the youngest in the group, Boris Zebo, who is 100% Cameroonian. But one could wonder what it means to be Cameroonian today. Here's the image of Mathusier, where he shows Fela, and he shows all this art scene. I mean, all the people who are not necessarily people that you would see everywhere, but he's a stage photographer. He's been following concerts, he's been following all those music events and all the happenings taking place in Africa. Boris, who is coming next, is an interesting young man. He made it very quickly because he's a hard worker. He has an imagination that cannot be stopped. And what is interesting is the shift that his work have been taking. Boris is known for his very colorful canvases, but here, for instance, you see this beautiful black and white, where he's trying his technique, his way of painting, but he's trying to do it without saturating it with color. So the master of color turned black and white. And I think that his research is going to lead him very far. He's one of the the artists, the young artists, I see having a great future, a great international future. At the end, we have Claudie.
I'd like to pause on Boris for a second. He has a very interesting background in terms of his path to his current artistry. He started his career as a sign painter for hairdressing salons in Douala. That's a very, very interesting start, an unusual start for an artist who's gone on to be very successful. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, I guess art is not necessarily taught in academies, because all the students who followed an academic courses are not necessarily artists at all, or good artists. And if you look at somebody like the historical Cherry Samba in Congo, Cherry started by painting signs, and he made it around the world. And same with Boris, he has a specific visual vocabulary. When you mention what he was doing for hair salon, etc., there's always the feeling that there's a memory of it in his paintings. He wants to address people directly. He doesn't want to sound intellectual or abstract or whatever those terminology. He wants really to address his people. He's not painting for France or for New York. He's painting for Cameroonian and for his neighborhood. And I think this is how you recognize somebody talented, somebody who's just trying to express what he's surrounded by instead of seducing or trying to seduce people he doesn't know, and people who might not be interested in what he would be doing. He would be trying to replicate. Because I think that what Africa can bring to the world is precisely Africa, and not some fake America, some fake Europe. And this is the strength of this young kid, because he's really bringing what he sees there. He's bringing his own personality, his own emotions, and he's also surrendering. And I think this is the reason why, outside of Cameroon, people are very much interested in his work, because then when they see the work, they would see that's coming from somewhere. It's rooted somewhere. So that's what makes him special.
Fantastic. So we'll come back to Claudie in a bit. Mama Nika, I'm going to move over to you now. So this year, Nika Art Gallery is showcasing 8 artists, which is the highest number of artists that we've seen this week for any of the galleries. And of course, you're one of them. And I wanted to have an understanding for why you chose these 8 artists. And then I want to focus on about 2 or 3 of them. So if you could just tell us why you decided to showcase Chidi Kubiri, Kunle Adegboreoye, Nyemike Onwuka, Romesiche, Samson Akinire, Shagun Phillips, and Tola Wewe. Could you tell us which one you're most excited about showing this year?
Okay. The most excited one is Roman Kubiri.
Okay, I knew you would do that.
So Rom is our icon in Nigeria. And then when you look at his work, starting from before he gets his master's, he's already a master. And his work is bought all over Nigeria, not only overseas. That is why his work is more popular in Nigeria more than overseas. And then everybody always wants Rom face. He focused on the beautiful faces of Nigerian women and the mothers, the daughters, so the sons. So this make his work very, very interesting and very, very special. And his work has been exhibited all over US. We were in US. We were in Los Angeles at the Hollywood, where the film people were fighting over his work. And then Kubiri is our son. He was born in 1966. He was from the Eastern Nigeria. And he's based in Germany. And people always want him to come home. When you look at his work, he worked with acrylic, and he also do faces, woman nature, mother and child. So when you look at all this work, he's talking about our own direct background, which come from the source, mother nature. Everybody have a mother. Everybody have a nature. Everybody have cultural activities in their background. Then you see mother and child. When you see how the love come from the mothers to the children, so you feel joy. And actually, some of this work is already gone because the artex is showcasing it, and people are calling.
That's fantastic. Fantastic. But Mamanike, I think it's people sometimes forget, because you're such a representation of strong representation of Nigerian culture. People sometimes forget that you yourself are actually an artist across many medium, across many media. Can you tell us a little bit about what your favorite media is?
Okay. Actually, I myself, I started the art when I was 6 years old, and my favorite my favorite is textile, because I start with textile. But from there, I get the idea of watercolor, from watercolor to acrylic, and the pattern of adire, which is popular all over Nigeria. You go to the eastern Nigeria, they do adire. You go to the north, they do adire, adi, are. And this pattern is a way of communication. In those days, when there is no telephone, you put water design. They will say, oh, I'm like water, I have no enemy. So I and myself, and myself and Tola Wewe, we were in Los Angeles, and the museum want to buy our work. And both of us, we don't have the size they want. That is a year 2000. That is how we decide to join together, because he read honor, which is a design from textile. So then me, even Filani, Tolawewe, they do their masters on my work. So that is why we decide to work together as a family and also as a team. If you have a studio and this one have no studio, and you come on the same level, so you can always share. So Nigeria always share whatever they have, no matter how small it is. So we now show the younger generation how they can be sharing as well. So Peju now join Odogu. So they are now working together in iron. So we see many Nigerians now who are working together as a team. And that is why this work is very, very special. We have eye that is talking. The inner eye can see better. The flower represents life, the cycle of life. When a child is born, a child grows, a child becomes an adult. It's like a record in their life. And those are the patterns we are focusing on for our children not to forget our source, for our children not to forget the way they communicate in those days. And that is why we decide to be showing that work every year.
Yes, because I was just going to ask you that it's not very common to see two major artists come together to work on a specific piece. So in the putting together of that piece and the concept, how do you decide who's going to work with who? Because this is, with all the exhibitions, your works with Tolawewe, even at your gallery, have become quite famous or popular for this.
Yes.
How do you decide what part of it you're going to work on?
Okay, so this is it. Tolawewe do the figure, I do the intricate design, which is the textile design. So when he do the figure, sometimes he can decide the color, sometimes I decide the color. And that is how we do the work together. But the first time we demonstrate together, that is a year 2000. So as he do the figure, I just start filling all the flowers, all the mirror, all the sugar, all the design that communicate like telephone in those days. And that is what I put in. And that is why you always see Nike and Tola. And he's from Ondo, where the textile is very, very popular. And me, I'm from half Ondo, half Kogi, because I'm half Akoko. So our family are actually related. So I just call him my brother.
Fantastic. Simon, I'm going to jump back to you. Could you tell us a little bit more about Claudie Consort? I liked your earlier comment where you said that these three artists are three different types of Cameroonians, right? Because I think people feel that, you know, to be of a particular nationality or to be from a particular place, you have to be a certain way. And I disagree with that. And I think that it's actually possible to be a different type of Cameroonian, to be a different type of Nigerian, et cetera, et cetera. Could you tell us about Claudie in particular? And it's pretty interesting that she's a female Cameroonian artist as well.
Yes, well, one of the things I was trying to say earlier is that we should go beyond the passports. I think nation state is an old idea. I consider myself, first of all, as somebody who's living in the world, and there's no place in the world, therefore, where I should feel a stranger. This is why at Galerie MAM we decided that Mathieu, who's obviously holding only a French passport, we decided that he could be a Cameroonian of honor or African of honor. Claudie is half-half. But I think that her heart was forged in Cameroon or in the sensibility of Africa. And her technique, she's working in a kind of impressionism, so to speak, and her figures are always undecided. You don't know if they're white, if they're black, if they're African or not, but you see that they're humans. And when she paints dancers, you can recognize dancers. So her work is open to all the interpretation, and it goes beyond, again, those borders that were forged. I wonder who forged them, actually. I think they were forged in Berlin Conference in the 19th century. So this is why we're trying to broaden, and Claudie, living equally, as we should all do, her two lives as a French and as a Cameroonian, has found a balance there when she doesn't wonder what kind of a technique she should use. She used a technique mixed. But she could use anything else. She doesn't have to prove to whoever where she's coming from. Her works speaks for herself. And when you look at it, again, this lady could be Indian, she could be African, she could be a tan European, she could be anything. And this is not what matters. What matters is the way she uses the colors, the way she poses, the way she works on features, and the way she gives and she transmits an energy through her work.
Could you tell us about the cultural references that you see coming through with some of the other works as well? Are there any specific cultural references to either to Cameroon or to Africa or to other places that your artists identify with?
I don't think. Yes, I don't think that the cultural references matter that much nowadays. If you look at the youngsters, if you look at us, we're in a space that is a virtual space, but we're getting together from different parts. So we could be sitting in a place in Lagos, it would be more or less the same. So again, we trans borders, and I think that what matters is everybody's experience. If you look at me, I was born in Switzerland, but I decide to be an African. I could decide some other days to be Swiss or to be French, because again, it's to prove that it doesn't matter. What matters is the vibration we're trying to communicate, whether we're educated in London or in Douala or in Bangladesh. We are this mixture of all sorts of influences, all sorts of different vibrations, all sorts of cultures. And I think that even somebody who never left Lagos is of course bombarded by all these informations. I remember this movie, it was Spike Lee, Do the Right Thing, and there was a discussion between two actors. One was racist, and Spike asked him, who are your favorite musician? And the guy would reply, Prince, Michael Jackson, etc., etc. So to say that we don't know what has been influencing us nowadays. And if we talk about the top leaders of the world, those who marked history, contrary to what Europe tells us, they were not European. There were Nelson Mandela, there were Bob Marley, there were Mahatma Gandhi. So Claudie is bringing in her work all those influences that you cannot decipher necessarily, because when an artist is painting, I hope he's not painting his passport, he's painting his soul. And his soul is this mixture of different kind of things that we cannot necessarily tell that from this. You look at us today, Africans, we're communicating in English because that's the best thing, the most useful tool. But does that mean that we're Brits? No, it means that we're just using any means necessary to bring our voice out there.
That's an excellent point. I like that you said they're not painting their passports, they're painting their souls. I like that. I'm going to borrow that quote. Mamanike, I wanted to ask you, as you've noticed, Adire has become very, very, very popular in recent years, and and become more of a fashion statement. But it's literally a walking art form. So I was saying to you earlier that I wore this today for you. But there was something you said earlier that I would like you to say, to help explain to our audience, which is Adi Are.
Yes.
Can you tell us what's really behind this word and the meaning behind this art form, this walking art form?
Okay. Adi, Are,
Are, exactly.
Adire. So the meaning behind it is wearable art.
Wearable.
This is a wearable art. This is a fabric that sometimes it takes you more than 3 weeks to finish 5 yards because everything is painted with beeswax, which come from the honey. Everything is organic. The fabric is woven on the loom, and then after waxing it, you now dye it in organic color, which is called indigo, elu, and all these go back to the soil without any chemical. So that is why that cloth is very, very special. And it goes around the whole Nigeria. You go to Cross River, you will see adire with adire, alabere, which is hand stitched with raffia. And they put bell, they put all the communication design in the eastern Nigeria. Then you go to the northern Nigeria, they tie corn, they tie stone, they put everything inside, and they still call it Adi, Are, they dye it. We do it and we dye it. And this communication, talking to ourselves in the whole, the population of Nigeria, almost 250 million people, and they communicate with this textile. So it's like a way of bringing us together to unite us in that color of indigo, which is the color of love.
Fantastic.
And that is why they always dyed in that indigo last color.
But isn't the word Adi, doesn't that mean to
you tie it? Yes. When you tie it, you dye it. When you do it with painting, you dye it. When you stitch it, you dye it. Everything
so
is
means to dye.
Yes.
Okay, fantastic. Fantastic. Yeah. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. Then the next question I wanted to ask you, still staying with you, Mamanike, is, we've talked earlier about how you've worked many years with Tola Wewe. Are there any other artists that you would consider doing joint works with in the future? If so, who?
It will go to my daughter Peju Alatise and Peju Layiwola, because they are following the steps. When you look at Peju's work, even the meta she's doing, you will see the design of Adire on it. The same thing with Professor Peju Layiwola. So this communication color and the sign, the symbol, just like when you go to Ghana, you see the symbol of Adinkra. So because this symbol of Adire is very, very important, I want it to be like a legacy where children will be learning it while they are in, they will put it in their curriculum at the age of 6. So they can know what water means, that we are together, we are like water. They cannot do without Nigeria. Nigeria is your friend. Nigeria is 1/4 of the people that live in Africa. So we are like water. They cannot do without us. So the same thing, we are their treasure. The artists are the treasure of the country. So we are like a treasure. They always say, oh, this one is no enemy in Africa. We are one Africa country. We may be 54 countries, but we are one. And that pattern of Adire is bringing us together. You go to Cameroon now, you will see their mud cloth. Then you go to Congo, you see their fabric of, we call it Cuba cloth. It's still the same pattern of each country that is put on it. So I want our own to continue with the next generation to come. And that is why we said it's better we pass this to the younger generation now, so they can continue. My daughter also is doing it. And then it's going to be next generation to generation. We continue to do Adire. And that is how I get it from my great-grandmother. I'm a 5th generation Adire maker in my own family.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow. That's prolific.
Thank you.
Simon, I'm going to jump to you on this same topic. Perhaps not with the artists that you're featuring here today, but are you seeing more of this technique with other artists that you're paying attention to in your sphere, either from other parts of Africa, from Cameroon, in terms of technique or age-old technique that they're bringing to the fore, such as the use of other materials, other age-old materials? Are you seeing a lot of that coming out in the works that you're paying attention to with some of the other artists in your orbit?
No, I'm happy Nick mentioned that what is called Adire in Nigeria is found all over Africa with different names. Yeah. And this color of love, the indigo, is produced by brilliant people in Mali, etc., throughout Africa. And maybe due to this legacy or this memory, there are signs where one can say we are Africans. There are things that you can find in different places in Africa that you cannot find anywhere else. So maybe this is that memory that have been dissolved in so many things that we call history that is still remaining. And while Nika was talking, I thought of this, this concept, the Japanese concept of living treasure. I mean, if our leaders, I don't even know if they deserve the term leaders, would be slightly more intelligent, they would have this notion of living treasures. And they will be working for this memory not to die. And there was a play with word that was quite interesting when Nika was saying, do or die. So it was interesting, this double meaning of die. So I think that the artists all over the continent are into this do or die process where they're struggling with a very confused and broken memory to bring it back, but in a very contemporary terms. There's also something Nika mentioned is our Mother Nature. I mean, we've always been, actually, we've been working with wood, we've been working with natural pigment, etc., and people tell us about global warming today. But I think that all over Africa, they've always been conscious of protecting Mother Nature, because there's a direct relationship there, even if places like Lagos are going skyscraping, etc., But the beauty of it is that despite this Manhattan-like thing, there's still things that we only African do, and we're still doing it in the same manner. The way you welcome people, the way you dress, etc., etc. And again, this is what you found in the work that I produced. It's not about the technique, it's about, again, the soul. And I think that there is something all African have in common. It's that history that we have to rewrite day after day, to keep alive and to move to other dimensions. And the other thing Nikki mentioned that is important is the legacy. We're not working for ourselves. We're working for those who were before us, and we're working for those who will come after us. And I think that when people ask me about contemporaneity, I always say, well, Africa is the contemporaneity. What is contemporaneity is what is happening here and now. An example, I would say that if I spend 3 years out of Lagos or out of Douala, when I come back, I don't recognize the place. But if I come back to Paris in 100 years, I won't be lost. And contemporaneity is the ability of shifting, of changing, of confronting. And this is an energy you find all over Africa.
It's a fantastic point. Just shifting gears a little bit. Those are fantastic points. Mama Nika, you agree?
Of course. I do, and it's our son. And I want you to know that anytime you come to Nigeria, even if you don't know where you are going, you just say, I want to see the airport. They will take you there. And this is one character about Africa. We are one. We will work together. No matter how the big problem is, we share that problem together. And that is why we are surviving up till now. Even our artists. Art now, African art is coming to, we thank the artists, first of all. Artex has brought us an excitement of the every year for us to come together, and not only Nigeria, but the whole world. So now, if Africa can come together as one, then Artex has opened the road to us.
That's a really good point, and which actually takes me to my next question. What do you think of the popularity of African artists amongst collectors from around the world right now? There seems to be, if you think about, even in the States, in the hip hop community, by people like Swiss Beats, Jay-Z, Beyonce, the Dean Collective, they're setting up these sort of collectives. And a lot of the artists that they're focused on are actually artists coming out of Africa, as well as Black artists in the States. So Simon, I'll start with you. What are your thoughts around that? Do you think this popularity is here to stay? Do you think it's creating a pathway for other emerging artists who are coming up, and other established artists who did not get a chance to be represented or to be very popular, but whose works are very, very prolific? Do you think their time has come? So for example, this is the 5th edition of Artex now. We have Dakar, we have so many other interesting shows going on around the continent. Do you think this is here to stay?
I think that what people don't realize outside of Africa is that Africa has been working. Africa has been shaking the tree. I don't think when you listen to somebody from, I don't know where, saying, I discovered this artist, you don't discover an artist. Just bear in mind that before, when they were discovering, they would call the continent terra incognita, as if the people who were living there didn't know that continent. I think Africa has been working, and people are just waking up. We didn't wait for them. We've been producing, no matter when they would say African are just able to produce ancient sculptures or cultural material. We've been working, and to give you an example, I remember in 2004, when I did Africa Remix with my big brother, Elanatsui, some people came to me and said, where did you discover him? And I told them, how do you want me to discover somebody who could be my uncle? He's been working for 40 years. So don't tell me, where did you discover it here? You've been there, you were blind. But I think that there's such a power coming from Africa nowadays that the world cannot remain blind. Because if they are, they will be the losers, because they need this new energy in their market. Just bear in mind that 20 years ago or 30 years ago, when they were talking about international market, it was basically the West. So even in terms of economics, even in terms of renewing, they need Africa. I'm not sure Africa need them that much, but they're just discovering that there's other jewels in Africa than oil, than diamonds, than all these materials, that there's also people living there who are producing marvels. And they're forced to take it on board. If not, too bad for them. It is said, and it is real, that Africa is the youngest continent in the world. It's true. So the future is ours. And what those people don't know is that when they say that, they say people under 30. But when I see Nikkei, I see somebody who's one of the youngest person I've ever met. So there's this energy that is breaking the boundaries, that is breaking the barriers. The world is not inviting us. The world is forced to take us into account, because we've been working, we've not been sleeping while they were thinking that we were not existing.
Very, very true. Very true. Mama Nika, do you have a comment on that in terms of the pop? Because you have a lot of people from around the world that contact you for some of the artists that you carry. You have a very international clientele. How are you feeling about the growing popularity of African artists with collectors from around the world?
Well, our son just say exactly what is happening. And that is how they are taking the African art. Having said, I want to tell you the story of Njideka Akweni, that her work is going for $3.4 million. And this is an African lady, an African, real Africa, who grew up in Nigeria, who went to, she studied, she do everything in Nigeria. And when they keep saying, oh, Africa is somewhere behind, of course we are at the top. And that is what my son is saying right now. This is the time for Africa. This is the time Africa now, not even yesterday, because yesterday is gone. But Africa now is just opening up. And we thank the artists, because during this lockdown, it was frustrated to all the artists. You can hardly grab your hand on anything, but artists still make use of whatever comes around them, and they make it work. And that is why this ArtX is coming to the public now to showcase what most of the people have been doing during the lockdown. So that is how you come in, and we thank you. And our son, don't forget, you have to come and eat pounded yam and egusi soup.
I heard you.
Been adopted.
Yes, please, you too. That food, that African food is the same thing. Wherever you go in Africa, we are one. The African food is the same thing. The language may be different, but everything is one.
Fantastic. I'll just take a couple of questions from our audience. We have a question from Barbara Barungi, who wants to know about Boris Nzebo's works. That his works are amazing, but very diverse. What societal issues and life experiences is he speaking to? Simone, I don't know.
Well, as I said earlier, he's speaking to his life experience. He's speaking to his people. And there's something I want to underline, is that the world are my people. It's not because I'm doing my thing here that I'm not talking to the world, because I'm a human. So there's nothing human that can be stranger to humans. If you look at all the great painters, they were painting what they had surrounding them. If you look at Van Gogh, who died unknown, his only collector was his brother Theo. Van Gogh was obsessed by the same thing. He was working the color. He was working about the field, the landscape around him. And this is why what Boris is doing. He's creating those characters. There's always characters in his paintings. And those characters are his brothers and sisters, and he's always adding. You mentioned that he used to work also as a sign painters for hairdressing, etc. I always have the feeling that in his work, you have nature, you have trees, you have hair, but there's always the human. The human is what he's focusing on, the human in its different aspects, in a different environment. Because if you look at his work, you might have the feeling that the background is different, etc., etc. And in fact, he's always telling us the same story in a different manner, as a good storyteller should. You know, the same story told by two different storytellers. One, you get bored. The other one, you say, wow. And it's the same story. But how do we tell the story? And I think that this is what is interesting nowadays. It's how do we tell the story? And how do we make it unique through our experiences and universal through the same experiences that we're talking about? This is what Boris very ingeniously and spontaneously came up with. Again, I have nothing against the academies, but I think that people with an experience rooted on what they're doing are the one who goes farther. If you look at Pascal Martin Taillou, his ranking among the top 100 in the world art, he's a self-taught. But I think that to be self-taught is to look around you, is to listen to your fathers, to listen to your grandmother, to listen to what has been produced, and to be in that position to leave something. I was there, you know, like when kids go to a site and you see they put a tag there saying, I was there. So this is what an artist is doing, is I was there here and now. And if you look at the work of Boris, it's exactly what he's saying. I am here and now, and I'm using any means necessary, as Malcolm X used to invite us to do it. And regarding the organicity of Africa, is that Africa was able, I'm talking about contemporary artists, they were able to do things with quote unquote nothing, just using the material they had around them. And Pablo Picasso said it once, if I don't have the blue color, I use the green color. If I don't have paints, I can use natural pigments. And I think that this is also the great advantage of this continent, is that we were forced to produce, because any human being produces. But we had to produce with what we had. So we had to find ways to produce anyway, without saying, we don't have this, we don't have a computer, we don't have that, we don't have that. We've been there. And I think we've been forced to go beyond the easiness.
That's fantastic. There's a question for Mamanike. I love that you mentioned Beju Laiwola, Beju Alatishe, and Njideka Akunyili Crosby. Are there other female African artists that you admire and that you would like to highlight?
Oh, there is a lot of them, especially the younger one, because Nigeria have maybe the population of the younger one is like almost 65%. So the younger artists like Ngozi Akande, she is the president of the female artists in the whole Nigeria. So she's the Sakari Douglas camp. They even show her painting. We are having one exhibition now at the Smithsonian Museum, which started before the last year. And the exhibition is for 1 year. Then we have, this is the first time that they will focus on female all over 54 countries. So this is a great achievement for we women. And we are now coming together ourselves that if they can focus on us, this is our year. Let's work together. Let's come as one family. There is no old, senior, junior. We are one artist and we speak with the same voice. And the art is like a voice of the artist. And I want all of us, that is why I'm more concerned about. Look at this, our son, the way he focused on the female artist. We have to promote them because they were kept behind long time ago. And the Smithsonian is telling us that they only have 11% female in
Wow.
the whole world. 11% female. So you can see if we get an agent or art promoter who can promote women, so we call them feminists. So we are happy to have more of them. I pray for your gallery to grow more and more. And for the collectors, I want to tell you, Nigeria now are collecting. Look at all the Danjumas. Look at Niyi, look at Yemisi Shilon, who even built a museum. So a lot of the collectors now are coming from Africa. Before, only we depend on expatriates. Oh, you bought it there, oh, you bought it. So, and then you young people, you are also helping us to promote, to showcase our voice because artists cannot promote themselves. So you are helping us to showcase this to the whole world. That is where the social media come in. That is why we need more of the social media to focus on the art, just like how you focus on the theater, on the music. So the art can be up there because after the name of the country, the first thing they will ask is India, then the culture, the art. So we need more promoter. So you can tell your people back home that we need them to promote more of this art, either men or women, they are our son. We need to promote our own voice, which is our work.
I agree with you, Mama Nike. And on the topic of collectors, sorry, Simone, you wanted to say something?
Yes, I remember when I opened the first art fair in Africa, in Johannesburg,
Wow.
there's a simple message I gave to the audience. We can complain that some stuff was stolen from us. People came with guns, with crosses. We had no option. But if tomorrow our kids have the same complaint, it will be our fault. If Africans are not collecting Africa, all the marvels that are produced today will be held in MoMA at the Tate Modern, etc., etc. So there's an historical responsibility for Africans, instead of collecting fancy cars, to collect art produced by Africans, because that's also a way to maintain the memory of what is happening now within the continent.
Which is actually perfect for my next point, which is that you have African collectors now who are very happy collecting just African art, right? Because the diversity of African art, from artist to artist, from country to country, from region to region, is so intense that you have African artists, and I'm actually one, African collectors, I'm not an artist, excuse me, who are happy just collecting African art. It's like there's so much of it still before you start considering art from other parts of the world. So that leads me to my next question, which is that what would be your advice for buyers looking to start African art collections? That's a question.
Well, my advice would be they just buy and they think after. It's a political statement. This is why places like this art fair in the continent are so important. Because back then, before we had no market, we're building a market, but it meant that the artists had to wait for somebody coming from Paris or somebody coming from England to start to exist financially. But it's very important that we address the market of all those people with money. And they should collect according to their feelings. They like something, they should buy it instead of thinking. And then the more they'll buy, the more literate they will become, and they'll be able to select things. They say, oh, this is my type, this is my type. But they should just buy. When they see something, they feel it, they buy it. It's still available, so they shouldn't wait too late, because then it might be just too expensive for them. So you always start a collection out of your feelings and without any calculation. They might not know.
Out of your feelings, but without thinking, is this artist going to be big someday? You start
No,
collecting.
if you do that, you'll be wrong. You don't collect an artist as you collect options from Google or Apple. You collect an artist because you feel that artist, and if it's very valuable tomorrow, you'll be happy. But this should not be the main impulse, especially when you start a collection. Well, you're going to take some advisor to ask you what to buy and put in your place. No, you go there, and there's also something that there's always a kind of form of complex where people think that you have to have a 10 PhD in art history to be able to feel something in front of work. They always have the impression of this is good, this is bad, what is good, what is bad. No, is good whatever pleases you. And this is where you have to go for. And later in 10 years' time, you might find a shape, you might find a refrain, you might find a motive in the collection you're making, and then you might refine your direction. But at the beginning, just collect. You have a great option of having different ranges of prices. You have people maybe you can't afford to have, but you have people you can afford to have. And this helps also the system, the ecosystem of art, so that young people can have collectors, older people can have collectors as well, not the same type of collectors. But Rome was not made in one day, and a collection is not made in one day.
So you're saying start where you are. If you want to start collecting, start where you are. Start where you're.
Exactly. Don't think, start, and later on you might find when you land it. But just start.
That's fun. That's perfect. We have a question also from Francis Odulate, who's asking this question to ArtX. Will there ever be a showing of ArtX of old masters like Benemon Wetal? Francis is actually my mother. The answer to that, Mom, is yes. And you've seen the collections of the old masters last year, and they're showing some old masters this year as well. We have one last question that I think I'll take. How important do you think it is to understand our African traditions when engaging with our art? Do you think this is a significant barrier for non-African collectors?
Well, I don't think that when Fela was playing his music, it was any kind of barrier for non-African listeners. I think that things are there. When Japanese are collecting Picasso, they don't care about his Spanish roots. People collect L. It's not because they know everything about the ngok and about the wooden material he's using and about all the things he's putting there. No, I mean, art is precisely the place where you can get rid of language. You don't appreciate, you don't look at the art according to language, according to your knowledge of this and that. Trying to collect something by knowing, but it is just being a ethnographer. And so these guys from Igbo and the Igbo region, they do this, this and that, and people will be just looking at the traces of the Igbo culture when art is beyond that. If an Igbo is producing, it's like when people were complaining about being black or not being black, etc. I would tell them, when I'm somewhere, there's something I don't need to mention, is the fact that I'm black, because that is visible. So the African should not mention the fact that they're African, because this is visible. But they're artists, and an artist is not just an African, Nigerian, or Cameroonian. It goes beyond all this. But at the same time, he encompasses all this, because what we are here is the fruit of what happened yesterday and the day before yesterday. Is there, digested. We don't need to show it, it shows.
I agree. Mama Nika, one last question for you. How do you maintain the pricing for the artist's work locally, nationally, and internationally? I think this is a very interesting question. Because we have the dollarized pricing, that's happening now in Nigeria, where dollars are very hard to source. You know, so I always find it interesting when you have a local artist based locally who prices his work for a local audience using dollars or pounds or euros. When the person buying the art, their income is based in Naira. So I guess the question for you is, how do you as a gallerist manage this pricing in multiple currencies for multiple audiences? It's a very, very painful and important question.
Yes, it's true. The
Now
actually,
500 to 1, ma.
huh?
Dollar is now 500 to 1. Don't forget, 500 naira to $1 now.
It's true. The society decide the price of the artist. And when they decide the price of the artist, it started from the auction. And the artist now say, oh, I don't know this work, what's this amount? But sometimes the Naira worth nothing. So if some of the artists actually keep their prices in dollars, like Kubiri, he's live in Germany, he's supposed to be using euro, but he said, let me keep it in the dollars. So people can always change their Naira to dollars. So some of the artists, they haven't really changed their price. It's because the value of the Naira is going down. And that is why they like to maintain dollars. And the dollars, you can spend it anywhere in the world. So we now look at our money when it's 1-to-1, it's still the same work that we are now selling at $1,000. So I think it's good we just base the prices on we are Nigeria. So if I say 500,000, it means only $1,000. So it's still the same thing. We will give you the Naira price and we give you so the people are adjusting to the price. But the artists who live overseas, they keep their money in dollars. I mean, their prices in dollars. Because when people come to the gallery and they said, oh, this work is 10 million, they will say, wow, 10 million? Then you look at it, it's only $20,000.
Only.
So, yeah, only. So you now say, oh, because we also have something that is ordinary 5 naira. So it depends. As we said, the artists, people decide the price of the artist, not the artists themselves. And when the dollar goes up, maybe the price of the work will go down in Naira. So the buyers will not run away. According to Nigerian price, like what we are selling for 250,000 now, we cannot say because the dollar is up and we now bring it down to the dollar. So we have to still keep our Nigerian price for Nigeria to be able to have our work in their homes and for the African people to have our work in their homes. But people who live overseas, they cannot spend they cannot spend Naira there, but we can spend Naira here. And then the people in South Africa too, they spend their money there. So franc or rank, I don't know. So we will still keep our Naira price, even though the dollar may go up, but we keep our Naira price. Yeah.
Simone, do you have the same challenge when trying to price your? I'm just quickly asking Simone before we wrap up.
Okay. Right.
Simone, in 30 seconds, do you have the same challenge when pricing your artists?
No, I have no challenge. The market of art is an art market. And as in any market, the more work is wanted, the more valuable it is, no matter, and that's where people tend to forget that when you want to enter the market, you go by the rules. You cannot start your first painting and decide that it will be $1 million. If there's no buyer, your work is worth nothing. Yes. So the market is what is dictating, unfortunately, and hence the importance for Africans to establish their own market.
Gotcha. And what's your quick comment on the trajectory of an artist who maybe, just came onto the scene a year ago at a certain price, at sort of like a mid-tempo price point, very well received. a year later, that artist is now being priced at 2-3 times what he or she was priced at when he or she first came out. Do you think there's such a thing as peaking an artist too early, from a gallerist's point of view? Because
No, there's not.
Collectors have this question.
No, there's no such a thing. I think that the role of a decent gallery, because the market is saturated, one of the role of the gallery is to go for renewal, is to bet on younger generation, because you help them grow, and while you grow, they grow with you. There's no sense when you're starting a gallery to have people who quote unquote don't need you, and you might not need them as well. You have to create again an ecosystem by taking young people. But going back to the fact that prices are changing. Again, I'm quoting Picasso. Picasso, at some point, he started to buy his own works because he felt that the way they were sold when he was younger and unknown, it was too unfair. So it's part of the thing. You know that you're going in the right direction when prices are changing. But when you're, again, out of school or you're doing your first thing, you can expect, if you're lucky, your prices to be the same than 10 years later.
Fantastic. Well, on that note, we're completely out of time. I wish we had a little bit more time. This has been a very spirited conversation. Simone, I would like to thank you very much for joining us from Paris and telling us about the artists you're featuring and about this whole conversation about collecting and artists. Mama Nike, thank you very much for the history lesson on some of the most common things we talk about in this part of the world, but we don't always know the history behind it. Thank you for joining us. Thank you to Nike Art Gallery. And finally, I'd love to thank ArtX as we wrap up this final session of the 40 minutes with the galleries. Thank you for this opportunity. And thank you to our audience for all the fantastic questions today and over the past week, and to the team at ArtX for organizing this. Thank you very much.
Thank you all. Thank the artists. Thank Africans to stay alive, for staying alive.
We thank all the Africans for staying alive. We thank all the fantastic artists for giving us reasons for our moods to be lifted in these trying times, for giving us continued works to be inspired by. We thank all the artists for sure. Thank you.